Hey guys, today I pulled out a recent acquisition. This is my Sig Sauer X6 Supermatch. This is basically the top of the line, highest end target version of the P226, which most of you are probably familiar with. It's Sig's sort of their flagship combat handgun. This is a hand-built gun. It's built by their master shop in Germany, hand-built by German craftsmen. It's single action only. You know, it's got the 6-inch barrel. The construction is all different. Attention to detail and build quality is leagues beyond anything coming out of Exeter. Even the old West German Sigs are just nothing compared to this gun. It's basically like they're being built by two different factories. This is more on par, I think, with like custom 1911s and things like that, if that helps you kind of get the idea of the difference in build quality and precision with these. These are able to group 1 to 2 inches at 50 yards, which no P226 will ever get that, a combat gun. These are target grade versions, very high end. And this is actually one of the new designs. This is the X line with this kind of angular design language that they're using now in these guns. It's a modular system, and I'll talk about that in a minute too, but they haven't been out very long. I just got this one about 2 months ago. I've been shooting it non-stop, and I just hit 1,000 rounds today, so I think I've got a decent amount of experience with the gun so far, and I think I'll be able to share some good thoughts and insights on my experience with the gun. I'll tell you right now, I love it a lot. So get into all of that in a little bit. Right now I'll just tell you a little bit more about the X line and what's going on with this type of gun. Like I said, it's based on the Sig P226, and you can probably see the resemblance. One of the key differentiators though is that these are all steel. These are modular. They're two different calibers. There's 9 and 40 right now. You can swap out the barrels and the slides. You can swap out the links. There's different links on these too. This is the X6, which means it has a 6-inch barrel. There's also an X5, which is a little bit more conventional looking. This one obviously kind of looks like a target gun. And there's also the X Short, which has an even shorter barrel than the X5, and it looks a little bit more like a combat Sig. And in typical Sig fashion, all of these there's a billion different SKUs on all of these. Each one of those ones I listed has different option configurations. There's the all-around, which is a double action, single action gun, and it's designed more for shooting competitions where you need that double action pull. There's the Express, which is the intro version of the single action only, which is what this is. The double action, or the all-round obviously is going to have the decocker just like a traditional Sig, but you'll notice this one doesn't. There's the Express is the intro single action only. There's the Classic, which is also a single action only, and it has the adjustable trigger, which the Express does not, and it has wood grips. And then there's the Match, which is a little bit of a step up. It has a skeletonized trigger and hammer and different grips. And then finally, the top of the line one on any of those X5, X Short, all that, X6, the top of the line version is the Supermatch, which is what I have. It has adjustable sights, skeletonized trigger and hammer. These are Hogue G10 Grips, which is a fancy material. It's sort of a plastic. It feels kind of like a hard plastic, but it's very grippy, very high end. I think it's got some fiberglass in there and some high-tech stuff too. It has that. It has the adjustable trigger, which I'll talk about. Really, it's just the top of the line, the absolute top of the line, I think, as far as the Sig Sauers go, and especially the X line. Like I said, these are all currently in 9mm and 40. In the past, they've had some in 45 also. Not sure if that'll come out. These are all also made out of solid stainless steel, which makes them very nice and heavy, and I love that. In the past, the X guns have also had a lightweight version that has an alloy frame. Personally, I don't really get the appeal of having one of these with an alloy frame and a double action, single action trigger. I feel like at that point, you might as well just have a regular Sig for half the price. Price on these starts at about $1,400 for the entry-level models, going on up to about $2,500 for something like this. The X5 and the X6 Supermatches are probably about the most expensive you'll find, and they are roughly $2,400, $2,500, something like that. So we'll talk about the size. It is definitely bigger than a Sig P226, obviously with that longer barrel. It's not a huge gun though. It's a good size in my opinion for a range gun. You don't want something small. Compare it with my Beretta 92 like I always do there, which is a big gun. You can see that it's about that size. Obviously this magazine it has a funnel. It has sort of a jet funnel right there to help you put the magazine in quickly. These are geared at competitions, bullseye, IDPA, IPSC, stuff like that. So all these different features come together to make a competition, highly efficient range gun. The weight is 55 ounces loaded, which is awesome. It's basically Desert Eagle weight. Unloaded, it's about 48 ounces, which is nice and heavy and solid. Like I said, stainless steel. I'll show you the thickness too. You might notice that this camera is actually autofocusing for me. It's a different camera. I'm gonna try using that one for a little bit, see how I like it. But you can see right there, it's you know, a lot of it is really just the size of a Sig P226. The barrel's obviously longer, but otherwise most of it's the same. The Sig X5 I think actually looks a little bit better. Looks just a little bit more conventional, and the visual balance is a little better, I think. I got the Sig X6 because I figured if I was going top of the line, I'd want something that could group at 100 yards, which these are capable of doing. And that extra inch of barrel length, I think, a little of sight radius will definitely help with long distance shooting, which, you know, honestly, shooting long distance can be pretty fun. So this is a gun that's going to excel at that. So I'm looking forward to doing some long distance shooting. Haven't really done it yet, but you know, shooting steel plates at 100 yards, that should be pretty fun with this thing. Next, I'll talk about the ergonomics and features. The ergonomics on this gun are great. It feels like a Sig, which is a good thing. Couple differences though, of course. One being that it's single action only, means that you don't have a decock lever, which normally on a Sig, obviously you have it right here, you have this decocker. Here you don't, single action only. Once it's cocked, it's ready to go. You got a safety, which flips up. It's very nice and solid, has good audible feedback, so you know what you're doing. There's a straight trigger here, which is an option only on the Supermatch model. You can also, obviously, because it's a modular system, you can get all these parts later and swap in and out whatever you want. You know, if you get the entry-level model, you can buy all these parts separately and swap it out and make yourself a Supermatch, but it's probably not very cost-effective to do that. It's got the straight adjustable trigger. I'll show you the adjustments in a minute. This is the takedown lever. I'll show you that. And here's the slide release. I'll cock this open. It's got forward slide serrations, which are always nice, I think. And so there's the slide release. Slide comes forward. Magazine release. Drop the hammer accidentally because it's so light. Magazine release is very large, projects quite a bit. You can see that there. It's on the right side only, and I'm not sure if there's really a way to put it on the left side. I'm really not sure. I'm not a lefty, so I'm not sure about that. And another feature you'll notice is this rail. I'm not a fan of rails at all. I think they're pretty ugly usually, but this one I'll make an exception for because eventually in the fall, I believe, of this year, they're going to have an X weight, they call it, which is a barrel weight basically that attaches to this rail here, and it blends in with the look of the gun, and it gives you a little bit more weight out front to keep the barrel down, the muzzle down, which I think is cool. I love heavy guns. This thing, like I said, is 55 ounces loaded. Putting on that extra weight up front, I think it's just going to be really cool. Told you I'd talk about the adjustable trigger here, and I'll show you what's going on with that. It's adjustable in a few different ways. What you have here on the side is you can stick an Allen wrench in there. These are included within the box. You know what? I'll show you what's in the box real fast. Just real quickly, I meant to do this earlier. So here's the box you get when you first get the gun. You got the gun there, extra magazine. It comes with two 17-round magazines. You get some high-definition gun grease, a little toolkit, which is what I was just talking about, and then, of course, manuals in different languages, test target, which is part of the reason why I wanted to show you this. This is the test target at 25 yards, 5 shots. And these are all done by hand now. They're not putting a bench rest or anything like that. So I'm pretty confident that in a machine rest, this would actually group much tighter. This is a human shooting this. So very impressive groups at 25 yards. And it can do better. Anyway, the reason I'm showing you all that stuff in the box is because this is a new gun. And I figure some people are actively looking at buying one of these and might be curious. Anyway, I was going to show you the trigger adjustments. Stick one of those Allen wrenches in the side there that you can see. You can actually slide the trigger forward and backward, which is kind of cool. So, you know, if you have shorter fingers and you want a shorter reach, you can pull it back in closer to the frame. If you're like me and you kind of like a little bit of a farther out trigger, I've loosened that up, pushed the trigger forward, and now it's a little bit farther out. You can also stick a screw up in through here, and you can adjust the over travel, and there's a screw through here that you can adjust the weight of the trigger pull. I've got it down about as low as it can go. It's a little bit over 2 pounds. I'll show you that in a minute. And I've got barely any over travel, which is pretty much how I like it. Actual feel in the hand is great. As I mentioned earlier, you know, it's like if you're holding a Sig, this is exactly what that feels like, only it's got a nice big beaver tail. So it's sort of like some of the Sig Elite models, I think. Honestly, it's kind of hard for me to keep track of all the different Sig models out there. They have billions of them, but I think the Elites have that beaver tail, and that feels really nice. These G10 Grips have a pretty good feel to them. They're very much like plastic, but they're definitely very grippy. And just overall, the gun feels good. Now, you might be wondering about the balance because of this long barrel. It's a little bit front heavy, but not excessively so, I don't think. And especially when you load a full magazine in here, it actually feels pretty well balanced, I think. It's not top heavy or anything like that. Overall, I think the balance on this gun is actually quite good. And it definitely points well. It's very natural pointing. I tend to like the Luger grip angle a little bit more. It's got adjustable sights. There's a sight picture for you. Very easy to see. There's that skeletonized hammer, and the trigger's a lightweight version also. Little serrations there if that's how you shoot. Very fine checkering here too. mag out for you. So there's a 17 round mag. Not sure if regular P226 mags will actually fit in here. I would assume so, but I'm not sure about that. So you can look at it. Very nicely machined. It's one of the things that you first notice when you pick it up and handle it. And it's just instantly, it's obviously better than a P226. And I'm not trying to bash the P226. I think they're great guns. My dad had one. It was a West German model and it shot well. But this is just not even in the same category as far as build quality, and it's pretty obvious when you first handle it. So you might be wondering, why would you spend $2,500 on a Sig P226? And that is where I get into shooting impressions. This gun is a fabulous shooter. It's one of the best shooting guns I have, probably. I made a video in the past about my absolute favorite semi-auto range gun, which is a Pardini GT9, which I also have here. And I'm going to say I still think that this is a little bit better, only because I like the grip angle, and the ergonomics feel just a little bit better. The bore axis is a little lower. I think the trigger is a smidge better, but this X6 is absolutely awesome at the range. There's really nothing to complain about with this gun at the range, especially with the adjustable trigger. The straight trigger feels really nice if you've never shot one of those. Let me make sure it's empty. I've been shooting it all day, so I just want to make sure. I'll show you the trigger pull, at least the way I've got it tuned. A little bit of take up here, and it's very light, as you can see. It's very light, a little bit of take up, and you hit that wall, and it just breaks. I'll show you that again. So the great trigger, once it's been adjusted. I'll be honest, when I first opened it from the box, I wasn't super impressed with the trigger. It's a little bit heavier than I expected it to be. I think there was a little bit more over travel than I thought there'd be also. But like I said, you can adjust all that stuff and make it exactly how you want. Very light, very crisp. And I'll show you the reset. Reset is one area where I think there could be some improvement. It's a little bit weak feeling. There's the click. The click isn't super loud either, and I think that return spring is just a little bit weak. I think it would be nice if it was a little bit more positive feeling when the trigger returns out. But so there's the reset, very short, and obviously the next pull is pretty good. So great trigger. Shooting is of course great. Accuracy, you know, it's 1 inch at 50 yards, so how are you going to complain about that? And what's great about it really is just that it's almost supernaturally accurate. There are a few guns that I have that are like that. The GT9 is one of them, but it's like, you know, you could just close your eyes, point the gun vaguely in the direction of the target, pull the trigger, which don't try that at home, I don't condone it, but you could do that and open your eyes and then the round hit right on the bullseye. It's almost like magic. And somehow the farther out the target goes, the tighter the group gets or something. It's weird, but this gun is a flawless shooter with a great trigger, good sight picture, nice long sight radius. You know, it's just impossible not to have groups like this at 15, 20 yards. I mean, that's what your groups look like, and you don't even have to try hardly. And I said that about the Pardini too. It's just almost effortless. And the recoil is great. This gun is so heavy, 55 ounces loaded, you know, 48 ounces if you're running out of ammo. It just soaks up the recoil. It feels like hot 22s or something. The sights fall right back onto target because of that. It's just an absolute joy and a pleasure to shoot. And like I said, I've shot 1,000 rounds through it. It's been my exclusive 9mm basically for the past month and a half that I've had it, and been really loving it, really digging it a lot. And I've also not had a single failure to feed, failure to fire, or anything like that, failure to extract. It's been dead solid reliable, except for one minor thing, and that's going to lead into my criticism section. And my criticism with this gun is kind of an interesting and unusual one. What happened was, it was actually just a few days ago, I was at around the 600 or 700 round mark, I think, and this trigger had actually worked its way back. Remember that it's an adjustable trigger, it can slide forward and backward. The trigger had worked its way back so far that the hammer was cocked back from the previous round, but it was so close to the frame that I couldn't actually pull it, and I couldn't release the sear to drop the hammer. And since it's a single action only, I couldn't like decock it to drop the hammer or anything like that. The hammer was back and I couldn't get it down, so I had to stick that little Allen wrench that it comes with, loosen that, back it all the way out, and then push the trigger back to where I wanted it to be and tighten it down again. The strange thing was that screw wasn't loose. This trigger had slid back into the frame somehow, but that screw wasn't loose. So I'm going to pay attention to that. After that happened, I shot another 300 rounds through it over the weekend and everything, and it didn't happen again, but I'm definitely going to pay attention to it, make sure the trigger isn't starting to work its way backwards. And I'm not sure if, you know, a little Loctite somewhere might help, but it's just kind of a little bit strange because that screw wasn't loose at all anywhere, and I didn't over torque it, but I didn't want to under torque it either, and I don't know, it felt like it was tight enough to me. So kind of a strange issue. I never had that before because I've never had a trigger that can slide back and forth. So that was unusual. And that was really the only failure that I've had with this gun. A couple minutes with the wrench fixed it, but that's been it. You know, it's been 100% reliable. Oh, also today at the end of my session, right as I was getting over 950 rounds or so, I noticed that these grip panels were starting to get a little bit loose. So definitely going to need to Loctite these screws. I think that's just a matter of these screws sort of working themselves loose as the gun recoils. Just sort of incrementally unscrews these right here. But it wasn't like loose. It was just, you know, if you pick up a gun and the grip panel slips just 0.5 millimeter, you can feel it, and that's all it was. You could just kind of feel it shaking a little bit. So apart from that, no problems with the gun. I'm hoping that trigger thing is not a design flaw. Like I said, this is a new design, this X-Line series of guns, these modular Sig Sauers, and I'm hoping that's not just a design problem, and maybe it's just that I didn't have the trigger torque down enough or something. But I'll keep an eye on it, keep you posted, things like that. Oh, and one other thing, the gun definitely gets hot after extended range session. A few days ago I shot about 400 rounds in one session, and this frame was very hot, which I noticed if I would index my finger here, it's kind of like it's pretty hot. So I mean, it is a stainless steel gun, so you kind of expect the heat to transfer pretty quickly through it, but that's just one other thing. If you're shooting it a lot, this frame does get pretty hot. Takedown is very quick and very easy and very Sig-like. I'll show you that real fast just for those who are interested in seeing the insides of this thing. Rack the slide back, drop the magazine, spin this lever here, just like on a regular Sig, and off comes the slide. There you have the insides. Not super exciting, really. You got your match grade barrel here. It'll do 1 to 2 inches at 50 yards. And the inside there is filthy because, like I said, I've been shooting it a lot lately. Just got back from the range a couple hours ago, in fact. You'll notice also that the rails on here are very long. You get a lot of really good, tight-fitting slide-to-frame fitment there. And I'll just slide that back on for you. It's not quite as smooth as the Pardini, for example, or even a P210, but it's still a smooth gun. Get a lot of contact there, and I think that's definitely part of the reason it's so accurate, apart from the match grade barrel and just the general precision. So in conclusion, this video has been pretty long, but I think if you've been paying attention, you'll know that I highly recommend this gun. Yes, it's expensive. You're going to pay over $2,000 for the single action only versions that I think you should get. I don't know if I'd mess around with the double action, single action. You know, it's at that point, what are you doing with that extra accuracy? It's just like, just get a regular combat Sig, I think. The reason you get these is for the build quality and the single action trigger, which is fantastic once you've adjusted it, in my opinion. Perfect range gun. You know, it's not going to dethrone my Pardini GT9 because, like I said, I like the grip angle and the trigger is a little bit more crisp, I think. But this is a solid number 2. You cannot go wrong with it. And really, given the price, $2,000 for the X5, I think you can get the Express, the entry-level single-action model, for even cheaper than that. It's really like a custom level 1911, and the price is not that out of line. And I think these are cooler in a lot of ways than most of that price range 1911. So definitely a great gun. Highly recommend it. If you're wanting to get a nice competition gun or even just a nice range gun, save up, skip the $1,200 SIGs and things like that. Save up an extra $500, get something like this. Get an X5 or even get an X6 with this longer barrel, or get the X short, something like that. Just get one. They're great. Love it a lot. And thanks for watching.